Well, thanks. Change management. A few years ago, I thought it was a fancy word for project management. That it was a word reserved for those workplace people. And I'm here today to say I was wrong about that, and I want to share my personal story of how I kind of was thrown into that. So, as Kate mentioned, Motorola in 3.5 years went through a lot of corporate restructuring. And change management is really that lever that moves us from place to place. And I'm not talking about the physical place, but the cultural shift that a company goes through. And when you're purchased by a company like Google, you don't automatically become googly. And so after 83 years, how do we change that? The leadership invested in retooling the company, relaunching the company. We looked at our product, our strategy, and how did the sense of place reinforce that? I was talking with someone earlier today, and they're like, well, do you have a seat at the table, talk about strategy? And I didn't say it, but I said, we are the table, right? We are the workplace, we are the conversation. So I'm going to start with the before picture. If this is the right clicker. It's the other one, okay. All right, I'm going to change. Oh, thank you. Well, this will be a short talk. All right. Hold it up. Creating drama. Anyone? Kevin, you're up. He said my Mac was frozen. He's going to blame. All right, we'll try that. So I'm just going to jump right in. Here's the before picture. Here's a picture of me and my workstation collaborating with a few team members. Here's another one. We did a restack, so I got an upgrade to a yellow cube. And then we did another restack, and here's back to the open office that we call it. But seriously, today, I want to show you, this is where we are today in the Merchandise Mart. And you see the open workplace, you see the sit-stand desks, and you see life. And that's really the big takeaway for us, is that we have life again. We have but I didn't want to have a slideshow today. I'm going to show you the sizzle reel instead of showing at the end. I want to show you the proof first, and we'll unpack it and see how we got there. And most of this has been approved by HR, not all of it.
Welcome to the Merchandise Mart, home of our R&D labs here. Instead of talking about the products and taking you through yet another boring presentation, we're really excited to invite you to a whole new way of getting to know Moto.
Creating a tech center, an iconic tech center in the Midwest that in 5-10 years, people will be able to say, I was part of that. That's where I started, and that's where I am right now.
We're now in a very open workspace. Everybody has an open desk, and you can see the other person across from you.
We started from scratch, and to me, that was a great metaphor for what we had the opportunity to do kind of as a brand and as a group of people, is to kind of reset. We would never have done this before. This is not your dad's Motorola. It wasn't even last year's Motorola. This is the Motorola for the next 10 years, and it's going to be a wild ride.
Motorola. Yes. Cheers. Cheers.
So you bring your pets to work.
Yeah, like a zoo.
So we have a cheetah. Do we have a cheetah policy? Should we have a cheetah policy?
We should have a cheetah policy.
A cheetah policy.
Yeah. Keep your cheetah on the leash.
Yeah.
I see you thought a lot about this.
I know you want it. I know you want it. Oh, yeah, yeah. But you're a good girl.
All right, so that gives you a little taste of what we've been up to. So how do we get there? Again, so here's Motorola. Here's our core talent, and half of which we're in the campus setting of Libertyville. We're going to move to Chicago. We started with the fax, and people drove to work, and now we're asking 65% of the group to commute one way, an hour and 40 minutes. And also the new work environment. There's no on-site health club or daycare, no tall cubes, no phones, and everyone has to share an office. So in meeting with David Harris, the VP of Real Estate, he's like, Steve, you know, Jim will take care of the design, but I want you to take care of this part. It's a project of a lifetime. Don't screw it up. So, and away we went. So I looked into the change management models, the McKinsey and the Cotter and the 7S's and the 8 steps and all these things. And so when I looked at it, it really liked this to me. So we brought in some help. We worked with Gensler. They have some great change management modules. And to widen our view, we brought in consultants. And then we created that task force to accomplish this. So I like this quote from Warren Buffett. It talks about the rear view mirror. And so today, you know, we didn't follow one of those models. So when asked to speak, I'm like, well, what is the model? I have to hurry up and figure out what we did, because we didn't just wing it, right? We did some great things. And so let me start with the discovery of what I think our model is. First, we searched in the mobile phones. You've seen these comparison charts, and it's all the specifications, right? And the user experience is really defined in 4.7 to 5.2 inches, and you're fully exposed with the user experience. Well, I'd say the same is true for real estate, that our touchscreen is in millions of square feet, and we house the people that do these things, the great thinkers and the scientists. So our job is that much more important. So when you look at the user experience and the customer, you have to ask yourselves, how do you define value? And more importantly, how do they define value? Are we going to have a war of specifications? Do they care about our metrics and our measures and our per square foot? Or do they care about experiences? So I think they care about both. So what does that look like? Here's an example. We did a space for Regina Dugan in Sunnyvale. She joined Google on the Motorola side, the ATIVE. And if you don't know Regina, she's a wickedly brilliant scientist, with past director of Dartmouth. And she gives great TED Talks. She used what's behind her, this graffiti. They call themselves the Pirates. And at the last I/O conference, this was her first slide and her last slide. This had personal meaning for her and her band of pirates. And so I think we have the challenge to do both. So we continue to look at the, so to do both, I decided to name our process, and it's called the Creative Change Management Approach. The first part is CRE, that stands for the corporate real estate, right? Commercial real estate. These are the fundamentals of what we do for a living. Then after that, the ATIVE, these are 5 characteristics of what I think we did. And we are advocates for the people. We are transparent leaders, right? We have the opportunity to inspire with vision and finally engage. So that's what we're going to be talking about. I'm going to talk about each of these 5 characteristics. Stephen Johnson, again, looking at the mobile phone and the graphic user experience, he talks about this hierarchy of needs. And there's the foundation. It has to be functional and usable and reliable. And at the top of the pyramid, our enlightenment is to search for those personal, those meaningful experiences, those experiences that is worthy of being shared. It's really the difference between tasks and experiences. And I don't think I'm driving. You guys are driving? Good timing. So go ahead. And he goes on to say that a lot of companies have a harder time making that leap to the top of the pyramid. And it's really the difference between subjective and objective. So today I'm going to be talking about some of the subjective things we did. I'm not going to go through all of our metrics and all the things we did. We have that. But it's because of those things that we did, we're able to kind of reach higher. And when we take a look at this, I think the one takeaway is that we have to make this personal. So let's get started. An advocate. We are here. We have an opportunity to be crusaders, right? And where do we see this as advocates? You have human rights. You have civil rights. We have gay rights. We have animal rights. There's a quote from Jane Goodall that says, "Only if we understand we can care. Only if we care we can help." And those are powerful words. And do we care about a project? Do we care about the people? Do we see things from their eyes? So we did the surveys, we did the focus groups, we did all these things, but we did more than that. To be advocates, we had one-on-one conversations with every employee. Now, not us in particular. It was the managers, and we equipped the managers with a toolbox. And we found a lot of interesting things, but people had a chance to be heard. So our takeaway for you guys is that do more than listen. Look for that sense of empathy. If it's not in you, find someone who has it and team together. But to see things from their point of view, right? Next, transparent. Transparent leadership is, there's all these books about the naked this and the naked leadership, and everyone's naked. But in transparency, there is that sense of vulnerability. Even speaking here today in front of you guys has that sense of vulnerability for myself. Next. So, make it personal. Here's an example from my life. 8 years ago, my wife was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I became her advocate. And as transparency, we didn't have all the answers, right? We became one to figure out what's going on. And it's okay to be scared and to do this together. And you know what? That had a huge impact in my life on the business side, right? No longer were we going through the motions of life. And I'm going to talk more about that later. Here's a great quote by Glenn Leopis in a recent Forbes article. He talks about people are looking for leaders that are not perfect, that are not vulnerable, and to remove that hierarchy, right? And so when you remove that, you can start to have a two-way conversation. So what did we do? We, next, thanks. So every month we had a town hall, and we stood on stage, and we shared the vision of the problems we were tackling. We didn't always have the answers, and many companies, definitely in the tech industry, these employees are pretty rough, and they will shoot you down on stage. But also in the steering committee meetings, we're supposed to be plotting the path, and we didn't always have the answers for the CFO and everyone else. So, and that's okay. We went and got the answers as we continue to look for meaning. So this is a two-way conversation. Admit you don't have the answers, but we're looking to foster trust. We're looking to draw people into the process. Here's a LaunchPad website. A lot of information. We wanted people to get connected with the city. There's our LaunchPad. We branded, everything was branded under LaunchPad. And the scorecard, we focused on 4 things: transportation, family support, the work environment, and productivity. I'm not going to go through these, but there's a lot here. And every month we relaunched a new amenity or gave them the bad news that this is being taken away, but we're going to replace it with this, or, trust us, we'll figure it out later. So inspire. A call to action. Dan Pink in a great TED Talk about motivation. I am guilty of trying to entice people with a sweeter carrot or a sharper stick, but he makes the argument that people do things, great things, because they matter, right? And at a certain point, the focus gets away from the people, and it becomes about the group. It's about the company. And at some point, as we got closer to moving, there was this sense of there's something big here, and people started to come on board. So what did we do? In addition to all these expos and votings and renderings, we have to get past the PowerPoint, right? We have to engage, fully engage all the senses. So in our meaningful experience, we took part of the cafeteria and we made it an immersive mock-up, not only about the desks. We're trying to convince and tell people about the whole environment and what does that look like. The takeaways here is, we have to be storytellers. We should find people of influence along the way and add them to the story, because at that point, it's not one person or one group telling the story. Again, moving beyond me versus we. What did we do? So this was our campaign. You are here, you're in the middle, but the new workplace, if you thought about it as only as your desk, you missed the big picture. We had these micro kitchens, we had these mega labs, we had things called playgrounds, whether it's the roof deck or the grand staircase. So this is what we focused on. So here's a few photos of the cafeteria. People learn in different ways, so we had metrics and renderings, and then we also, for example, here, the chillax, we hang out by the windows. We took a photo of what it looks like from our new space. You're in Libertyville. You haven't seen a skyscraper for years. And we even recreated the rusty old paint peeling radiators. And the next slide, we had 14 desks, but every desk was owned by an engineering leader. It's not really where he was in the company, but he was well respected. And we said, make this desk look like you. Make this look like a software desk. Make this look like a hardware desk. And so when the people came in, they identified themselves with that desk, because this is what you did at your desk and this is what you did in the lab. And then we invited everybody as groups to come and work in this environment to start to understand that you can see people, you can collaborate, and this is really the turning point, I'd say, for our project. Next, vision. The line of sight of a leader. I think the visionary leader, we always think of, I'm going to conquer the world and I have the army and this is my plan. And I would argue that's not so much today. It's really about when you're in the middle of the firefight, right? Can you see to the right, to the left, behind you? Are you willing to change course? Staying on the goal, but it's really mid-flight. I'm going to give you an example of what we did. But first, the great character MacGyver, he has great business quotes, by the way. The tighter you plan, the more likely you're going to run into something unpredictable. And when I saw this quote, I was like, this is so perfect for us. So as leaders of change management, keep your view wide and look for that next opportunity. So we again, did a lot of great fundamentals. But the vision here, we had this cross-functional team, and people stopped showing up to meetings. They stopped participating, and we looked at the passion meter. So in a sense, we fired everybody. And we connected with a passionate group, a working group in HR. And from that point on, again, we continued to move towards the goal. Takeaways for me is find those other people that share the passion, be willing to fail, but at the end, press forward. Here's a picture of us and the HR team. I'm not going to tell you which one I am, but the common goal is the people. And it was the culture, it was the people, and that kept us going. And finally, engage. I'd have to say that everything we've done today is really about engagement. I highlighted the word captivate. Hopefully, people are willingly to be captivated, not against their will. The great facility manager, Willy Wonka, says, a little nonsense now and then is relished by the wisest of men. And the reason I put this in is because sometimes, at least the old Motorola, it's like, if you're not having fun, you're not being serious, you're not being fiscally responsible. And I'd say if you focus on the fundamentals, that gives you the permission to have fun, right? You do your job, but we can do both. And that was a big change for us. As you saw from the video, it's happening. So tasks, I really don't have any to talk about. The engagement, there's too many to list here, but the, if you catch yourself going through the motions or your team going through the motions, wake up. People appreciate the extra effort, and effort doesn't equate to money, right? It's paying that personal time. And it doesn't stop when you move in. For example, we did all this work, and when the first day we moved in 6 phases, people got off the train. And they were swept away by, in Chicago, and it can be pretty scary. So we had people with these 6-foot signs. So this is the first thing they saw when they stepped off the train. Welcome home. They saw it again at the building. They saw it again when they moved up to their floor. These signs cost us maybe $300. Next, when we moved in a few months later, I think we forgot to how to celebrate, or that we had permission to celebrate. So we auctioned off a lot of stuff in the old campus. I think I even tried to auction off the floor wax because I had to pay for this party. And but we had DJs, and we had food, and we had entertainment, and everyone brought their families. But you know what? The RSVP was really low. And who wants to have a party that's already been paid for, right? And no one shows up. So in my moment of brilliance, I decided that we should raffle off a car. Because my math was sound that, you sell enough raffle tickets, $20, carry the 2, it should pay for itself. So then at the last minute, I checked with legal just to make sure I was okay, and they said, well, actually, there's this thing in Illinois, and it's called gambling. You cannot do this. So you have a choice. Either don't do it, or you have to give it away for free. So I'm like, okay, beg for forgiveness. This is Google. I can do it. Okay. So, but I didn't have to beg for forgiveness because we doubled the number of people that showed up. Our new president picked the name out of the hat, and this was the talk of the dinner table. This was showing everybody that we're allowed to do these things. When you consider the cost of a tent and renting the lot, this was nothing in comparison. Next. Okay, Roos new. So it doesn't stop when you move in. There's a lot of information, and when you go from a dress change like that, we wanted to continually send updates to everybody. And the communications team said, well, we need to be respectful of everyone's time. Like, I'm trying to be respectful of your time. And so don't inundate them with emails. I said, fine, we're going to do a newsletter. So every Monday, they'd see this newsletter. Next. They would see this newsletter above every urinal, in every bathroom stall, and they're like, you're so uncouth. And I'm like, that's okay. But you know what? Today, the communications team, they email us to put it in there. And people look forward to this. We have contests. We have silly quotes. This is continuing. And then my last example, we had a town hall such as this, and everyone came to, tell us what we haven't done yet. And right in the front, we put an orange couch. And everyone looked at the corner. No one sat on the couch. At the end, we asked for questions and comments, and someone from the back said, the wayfinding here is really terrible. What are you going to do about it? I said, well, I'm not going to do anything about it without you. Please sit on this couch and help us solve it. Next. So we got 3 people. We got someone from the IT, someone from software, and then the facilities department. Guess which one? We came together and we launched a phone app. Next. And it's called, one more time, Mart Map. So a handheld device. You can input someone's name or the conference room. You can find where you're going. But the best part, I know there's other solutions out there. The best part is we made this. The baton has been passed off. The new culture of the company is like, we're gonna figure this out, and we're gonna figure it out together. So here's my metric. 1, we did a survey. 87% of the people were super pumped, neutral or higher, to be here. But we read every single survey response, even the 13% that were unhappy. We had one response. My favorite response was, this place doesn't suck as bad as I thought. And I'm like, that's a win. That's like in the 87%. So, next. So, takeaways, right? We all love these takeaways. Build upon the fundamentals. find a story that people care about, remove the hierarchy, and look for that value. And finally, along the way, search for personal significance. So I like to end with one more story. So I told you about my wife, and if anyone knows or lives with a cancer survivor, you know that a new lease on life has been issued, and it's very hard to keep up with my wife. You go to Great America, you're in the front row of the roller coaster, or Halloween, you're making all the costumes. And in this example, if you go to a rock concert, you're in the front row center. So we went to go see Martina McBride a couple years ago. She's country, very good, you guys. And so I wrote the favorite song on my chest. In the very beginning of the concert, I flashed Martina. And she stops the concert and starts talking to me. She goes, well, that's, blah, 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 we'll play that song later. She's like, security guy in, front row. And so later happened, and they turned the lights off. And I looked at my wife, and I said, are you ready to make a memory? I grabbed her hand, and we started dancing in the front row. And I opened my eyes, and all the flashing lights were around us. The spotlight was on us, and Martina was basically serenading us. So I asked ourselves, why do we reserve those moments for our personal life? Don't we deserve those moments here in our workplace? Don't we deserve that here at Worktech, right? So to sum it up, the creative experience, this change management model, I like to think it's like a dance. Someone has to lead, someone has to follow, and at a certain point, you don't know who's who, but you can tell there's the sense of enjoyment. And today, I think the workplace, we have the spotlight. We have the spotlight in changing companies. Thank you.
So,
yesterday Kate told me I was going to cry, and I didn't believe it.
So can you understand what I
great.
said is around, have you had a project that you've worked on that has fundamentally changed you? And it was really this approach with, David and Stephen, their deep care and passion towards how do you migrate all of these people from an old paradigm or an existing paradigm into a whole new world that is really, this urban experience and that they love. And you walk through that space now, and it is just high vibe. I mean, it's just people love being there. Yeah. And it's just an amazing piece of what you've taken them through. So well done.
One more quick round of applause.
Thank you.